Hi, everybody, and welcome to an episode of the Power Aging Women, where if you're over 50 women and you are like, hey, man, I'm not feeling 100%, let's reset my mic. That would be really good. There we go. Always tech glitches. Here we go. All right. So happy to have you guys here. And I haven't done a live in a long, long time. I have been online for 15 years and as a naturopath of 30 years. And I'm trying to help you guys and be on the same journey with me as we're trying to figure out what is healthy aging? What's all this confusion about? Stop all that stuff. We don't need to be confused anymore. We really need the answers, right? So I have decided that I'm going to do this foundational reset for you guys. It's a full-on hour. We're going to have me teaching you guys. So put your questions in there as they come up. And then those of you who have, of course, asked for the link, and all my subscribers will get the replay as well. So that's the cool part. You get to hear it again if you need to and you want to go over some things. And then make sure that you share it with your friends. My goodness, I need help. Let's spread the word out there to other women who are going through all this crazy stuff in the greatest season of our lives and they don't know where to turn to. Let's share it. Let's like get the word out, right? If you don't have your camera on, like I say, will say, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Just listen, listen. That's no problem. So many of you guys who are listening on this live and then on the replay, some of you know me, some of you don't. And so I'm going to just share real quick my story and then we have a lot to cover. So I'm giving you guys a chance to go get your water, go get your tea, go get whatever you're getting that you need to, because we want to make sure that you're able to hang in there with me. Okay. Let me just make sure that yeah, muted. So here we go. And I started this whole journey out when I was in my teens, 20s, and 30s when I was sick all the time. And I had major, major health challenges. I had chronic fatigue, chronic sinuses, chronic migraines, and I was sick all the time. It was really rough because I couldn't seem to turn around without getting sick on some level. I had chronic sickness all the time. So I went through a horrible divorce. That's a story for another day. And I decided I'm going to go back to school to become a naturopath, went back to school, opened up the first holistic clinic in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Go Wisconsin. And there I really got sick because I felt very pressured to be successful as the only holistic clinic in the state. And I decided, okay, I'm going to go all in. And I was working literally up to 80 hours a week. And then I was going to school to continue learning because you don't just go to school and become a naturopath in 6 months. It takes time. And then I also was a single mother. And I was just, and so I almost had a heart attack in my late 30s, and that woke me up. And I was like, whoa. And then I started having real serious gallstones and kidney stones, double dip. And I was like, yeah, something has to stop, something has to change. So I figured out a whole bunch of things that I'm going to share with you guys today so that you can have the understanding of what it really takes. Because what the science is now showing is that women in their 30s, and if you're having all these lifestyle challenges, will definitely affect you in your 50s and 60s. That's not a good thing for our young sprouts. So I want to make sure that here we are in our 50s, 60s. What do we need to do right here, right now? I got you. Don't worry. So just to finish my story, in my 40s, I got Lyme disease in 6 months. I got rid of it. Bam, because now I was on the roll, like I knew what to do for the immune system, right? And then when I turned 60, I had a frozen shoulder. Everybody now says that's from menopause. I call BS on that. It's not. I think it's a lot of other stuff going on. At any rate, now I'm 68, just in case you wanted to know, and I never, ever, ever get sick or have issues, or if I do get something, I don't even remember the last time I got anything. I know what to do. And that's the secret sauce I want to give you guys there. So I want to make sure you understand I've been in the trenches. I'm not just somebody who's selling a supplement. In fact, I don't. I'm really all about the the stuff that actually works for us. Because I don't know if you know that all the decades, actually hundreds of years, all the science that's been going on has been on men. And only in the last 20 years for sure has the scientists and the research been done on women. And that woke me up a year and a half ago when I saw Dr. Stacy Sims' TEDx talk on women are not small men. Go watch that if you've not. Women are not small men. And that opened up my whole world. It was Dr. Stacy Sims and all her research and everything she's doing. But I realized then it's like, oh, this is what. And then my buddy, Dr. Anna Kabeka, triple board certified OBGYN, she said, we weren't taught about menopause symptoms in school. I said, Anna, you're a triple board certified OBGYN. And she just looks like this, shakes her head, and she says, no, we weren't taught about it. And she's female, right? So of course the men don't know either. So I was on you know how they have those panel discussions for podcasts, and I was like listening to a whole bunch of them, all men. There's five of them. It was Andrew Huberman, that's what it was. And he had Peter Attila on there and Gary, Mark Hyman and Gary Breck. You know, he had a whole bunch of them. And they're all they got talking about menopause. And I'm like, wait, what are you saying? What are you talking about? You don't know anything about what we're going through. And that opened my eyes. And then when I know many of them, when I see them at conferences, I say, why are you guys not sharing this information with the women who are the female experts and let us take that part and you guys could go on your merry way. And they're like, well, because it's a hot topic. Yeah, right. Okay. So what I'm doing to, just so you know, I'm very, very cognizant of the men getting on the bandwagon with menopause and the symptoms that we're going through as women because they think we're gullible and they think we're just going to throw money at them. Sometimes we do, but we're really not that gullible, right? And so what I'm doing is I'm going to conferences this last, well, 2025, I went to a bunch of conferences in Europe because they're much further ahead on healthy aging. And now I am going to go to a bunch. In fact, I'm going to be the keynote speaker in Rome, Italy in April and be just hanging with the docs about longevity and what's working for women. So I got my finger on the pulse, and I want to tell you this that I've already learned from the scientists, researchers, and clinicians is that everything that we're going through, we often say as women, oh, it's genetic. My mother had Alzheimer's, and so that runs in the family, and my grandmother. And then another one is, oh, my parents and grandparents, we all have high blood pressure and blood or heart disease issues, right? Well, here's the facts, ladies, that 95% of the things we go through that are age related is 95% is not genetic, it is lifestyle choices. So the habits that our parents and grandparents, like, oh, we're always going to have, sweets with every meal, and we're going to go to bed at whatever, it's like these habits are what passed down and actually causes many of our issues. So just put that in your thinking cap and understand that we can't blame everything on genetics, right? It's really not about that. So today, here's what we're going to cover. Let's start diving deep into this. And at the very end, those of you guys who are on here, you're welcome. I'm going to open it up, and you're welcome to ask questions. And then if you're on the replay, you could send me email your questions as well. I'm really here. I have a real heart to help you guys lay the foundation on this. I'll tell you in a little bit about if you guys want to go to the next step and say, hey, I need some more help. I'm going to have a reset week. that's fine. But this is really foundational. I believe in foundational stuff. I wish they had told me this when I was going through my illnesses and my health challenges. But when you have these foundations, then at least you know it's like, okay, I could start here. And now I know I'm going in the right direction. And this is all based on not only my personal life as a naturopath, as a clinician with my own life, and following people like Dr. Stacy Sims, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, Dr. Anna Kabeka, Dr. Rhonda Wright, Dr. Gabrielle Lyons. I have a list, I have a long list of women that I follow on the daily to see what is the latest that's coming out and what are they saying about protein, all the different things. So here's the 7 things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about chronic conditions only because it's near and dear to my heart because of what I went through. And I really feel that so many of you are suffering needlessly. You guys are tough. We are, as women, we're just tough. And we tend to push through instead of like, hey, I need to deal with this pain and inflammation on the daily. I like this has got to stop, right? So I'm going to cover that. We're going to get into foods, and we're not going to get into, should we be keto and paleo and vegan? Oh my goodness, what about carnivore? We're not going to do that. We're going to talk a little bit different about food in a way you might not have thought about. And definitely we're going to talk about mindset and stress and how that is affecting us. Movement, definitely going to talk about, do we need to be walking 10,000 steps every day? And detox, because I'm the detox queen and I've been doing that for 30 years. Just got to talk just a minute about that one. And then social connections, what the research is now showing, especially here in Europe, that you know what, if you social connections are like paramount to us as we're aging. And then what are the simple daily habits that we really need and how we're going to do all this, right? Because it has to be practical. Okay. All right. So let's dive in. First things first, I have my notes here. Why are we inflamed? Why are we going through inflammation and chronic pain and, the fibromyalgia, the arthritis, osteopenia, all these different things that keep popping up? Here's the deal to understand that when there's inflammation, it's not just hormones. Okay, there's a thing going on right now, and this might change as I do my lives, but right now there's a trend going on that everybody's blaming everything on hormones. I will sit here and tell you now, ladies, not everything is about just the hormones. It is a big issue, but it's not the only issue. Okay, so here's the other part to that. Everybody wants the quick, like, hey, just what supplements can I take that's natural? Because of course the medications have side effects, right? And the natural stuff, the supplements, you think, oh, well, I'll just take a bunch of that and that'll help my pain and inflammation. And the answer is that you could use it to relieve pain a little bit, right? Like, if you need medication, hey, I'm not going to judge you. If you need pain meds, go for it, right? If you need to take some supplements for a little bit, but it's not really the answer. I always like to go to the root issue, right? Well, here's the thing. A lot of people now are saying, well, we're gonna go do the cold plunges because that will help bring down pain and inflammation. And it's true, it can, but it works mostly for the men again, not for the women. Now, before a lot of you come at me, because I know many, many of you are, I go swimming out in the ocean when it's, in the middle of winter. Great, bravo for you. But what the studies are now showing is that when you go as women after 50, when you go into a cold plunge, then what happens is that it's a shock to the cardiovascular system. And I'm sure you know that we're caught up and surpassed the men in heart disease issues, right? So now you're putting a shock to it, and we can't handle it because our body is not made for that. The type of fat that we have in our body is not the same as men. It's very different. And that's a whole nother science that I'm not going to cover this time, but just understand that it's not. Now, what is an alternative that I've been doing literally for 30 years for all my clients, and I still do? It's called hydrotherapy. So hydrotherapy is when you do hot and cold, and you're going to be like, you just told us don't do cold. hold on, hold on to your socks. 3 minutes of hot, right? So in the shower, go hot, hot, hot as you could take it. And then you turn it just, you don't have to turn it all the way cold. That's the thing. Okay. You could just put it cool water and then you could get it as cold as you could tolerate. It's not past what you could handle. And then do that for 30 seconds or a minute. And then you switch back to the hot. Now, what does that do? So the hot water drives your blood cells, your blood cells, and starts doing this action, which is exactly what you need. Because when you have pain and inflammation, your body doesn't have the ability to flow correctly. Lots of things going on. Your lymphatics are plugged up, your muscles are not getting the nutrients, and then you're not getting the protein. And all these different things are happening all at the same time when you have chronic pain and inflammation. So the hot and cold does this little movement action back and forth. Okay. So the hot will drive the blood cells up to the surface of skin. So if you're light skinned, you will see your skin turn red. Okay. And that's a good thing because the blood is coming up to the surface. What does the cold do? The cold drives it down all the way down into your bones and gets the bone marrow blood cells going. And that really helps a lot as well. Okay, another part of being inflamed is that having a high stress life. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Having high oxalate foods, not sleeping well, and then yes, there's hormone shifts. Okay, we're going to cover all that. I just take your notes, take a beat, and you're like, wait, I didn't hear about all this stuff. Okay, so here's the thing. When you're chronically inflamed, it's going to lead to other issues. And this is where I usually see my people coming to me and saying, hey, I'm chronically tired. I wake up tired. I need naps in the afternoon and I'm drinking more coffee. I'm chronically bloated, chronic everything, right? And that's because the nutrients that you are eating. So it doesn't matter keto, paleo, vegan, all these different things. What is happening is your metabolism. Don't worry. I'm going to give you the bad news first, then I'm going to give you the good news. So the bad news is that as after 50, actually after the age of 45, your metabolism slows way down. So you know how it is when you watch the 80, 90-year-olds and the way they eat slowly, they chew their food a million times, and then they go take a nap, right? Their metabolism is just slow. They're just really have slowed that down. Well, when does that start? That actually starts at 45. And so when you have chronic inflammation and pain, it's because your body is slowed way down, your metabolism, and you're not absorbing the nutrients enough. So you could be eating all the most organic food in the world, but if you're not absorbing it, that's the issue. Okay, you need help with digestion. Okay, so again, I'm covering the foundations. Write your questions in the chat here or send it to me because this is the foundational part I start everybody at always. Okay. So let's deep dive into foods. Okay. So it's like I said, it's not about keto and paleo and being a vegan. You could choose whatever you want because different people need different things depending on what's going on. Now, for healthy aging, here's the most important part that is absolutely being talked about by every single female expert that I follow, and plus I'm doing it as well, is the protein. Okay. So if you're keto, paleo, carnivore, all these different things, Mediterranean, that's fine. The vegans will have to be very, very aware that getting enough protein is difficult. Now, most of the women scientists are saying, as a vegan, you cannot get enough protein. Well, it depends on the person, okay? It depends on your overall, like, hey, do I have pain and inflammation today? And if not, great. That means you're getting enough protein. That's one of the ways to tell, okay? So you have to figure out how much you need a day. So there's a whole formula, and what I encourage you guys to watch on YouTube. She has done the best job, in my opinion. It's Science of Protein by Dr. Rhonda Patrick. The Science of Protein by Dr. Rhonda Patrick. She really gets into nerdy science and all that. And she goes into your 1.6 kilogram per body weight and all these different things. As a naturopath, what I'm looking to see is the food that you're eating, are you absorbing it, number one? And number two, are you able to get enough protein so you have the energy and you're not losing muscle mass and you're feeling no pain at all? Like I wake up literally every single day and I have no pain whatsoever compared to my story, what I shared to you with you in my 20s and 30s and 40s. Right. And I think I deserve that. Like I worked hard to make sure I don't have pain. I don't like pain. I don't like to push through pain. I don't like pain. I don't want it in my life anymore. So when the scientists were talking about protein 2 years ago already, I heard about it. I was like, oh, let me hop on that bandwagon. And it's hard. I will say this is not the easiest thing to do to get enough protein in the day. So I'm just going to touch on the formula from Dr. Rhonda Patrick. Dr. Rhonda Patrick has, like I said, the 1.6 or 1.4 to 1.6 kilogram per body weight. So I'll just use me for example. I'm 5'7" right? And I have about 140, I fluctuate right around there, 140 pounds, which is about 65 kilos for my European crowd. And I realized I was only getting maybe 50 or 60 grams of protein a day. This was 2 years ago. And I noticed after workout, it took me 2 days to recover. And I was like, ooh, that's not good. And that's taking me, is that because I'm getting old? You see, all these things go in our mind, right? And I was like, ah, doggone it. That's like, I don't want to wait that long. I want to go to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I want to recover quickly. Anyway, so I realized I need to up my protein. I was challenged because I didn't realize that you have to have protein at every meal. And I started adding protein shakes, right? Now, if anybody has questions about the type of protein and whatnot, we could get into that. But that made a huge difference. Having a protein shake in the mid-morning, sometimes in the mid-afternoon, like right before this live, I had my protein shake and it definitely has made a difference in my workout routine and my daily recovery, like super fast. It just, I see the difference. And that's what you want to see. Within 7 days of doing any of these things, 7 days, did you guys get that? 7 days, whatever you're working on, you should see some improvement. If you do not, don't believe the boys who say, oh, yeah, you just got to take these supplements for 3 months. Oh, yeah, you just got to be on this program for 3 months. No, no, that's lining their pockets. And that's not how, as women, we work. No, no, our body could see results in 7 days. So in 7 days, I've taken the protein. I felt better. I was like, oh, I'm even feeling sharper. Okay, cool. It works. All right. Now, here's another one. Pay attention if you're having gas, bloating, constipation, because again, you're not digesting your food. Here's the lesson on that. This is foundational, my friends. And I know there's going to be a little pushback, but I'm absolutely have seen the difference in my own life and in the clients that I work with. Carbohydrates, I'm talking about the type of foods, right? So every meal should have protein, fat, and carbohydrates. Carbohydrates could be anything like your bread, your crackers, your grains, your rice, right? Um, Carbohydrates also include certain vegetables, your potatoes, sweet potatoes, this kind of thing. Your carbohydrates, of course, are your desserts, and carbohydrates are also your fruit. So many of my clients will say, "Oh, I don't have any dessert. I don't have a sweet tooth." But then all day long, I find out that they eat fruit, right, which is very high. Most fruit are very high on the glycemic index and are very, very hard on our system. So carbohydrates are not your friends. You need to lower your carbohydrates and increase your proteins and increase your fats, your omega-3, 6, 9. So that would be your fish, your avocado, your olives, because that's going to help your brain health. Very important. Right now, the one that's the star of the show on all the podcasts is Dr. Louisa. Dr. Luisa Mosconi, she is out there to stop or to prevent Alzheimer's and dementia, and she's going at it full on. And she's young, she's in her 30s, but she knows the difference. And she has said omega-3, 6, 9s for the brain, super, super, super important. So make sure that you're realizing that your carbohydrates are not your friends, and you have to really pay attention to how much you're having. And here's the thing, just go 3 days. I challenge you. Okay, this is alive, and this is the challenge. Go 3 days of having 50 grams of carbohydrates a day. And you say, like, well, how much is 50 grams? Listen, there's these things called AI now. Just put it in there and figure it out. It's so easy. And just like, oh, that means it's two rice crackers. That's it. First time I did that, I was shocked. But I noticed that the days that I might have more, like I'll have more rice crackers, or I'll have soup and crackers, or I don't know, some more carbs, and I feel more sluggish. I hate that because I love carbs. Okay, so number three, let's go talk about this is the hardest. So I saved. I'm tucking the hardest one in the middle here, which is stress. So let's ask this question as you're sitting here listening to me, watching me, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high stress, 1 being low stress. Just write it down. What is your number? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high stress, 1 is low stress on the daily, right? So right now, right here, where would you say? Okay, now remember that number, okay? Because here's the thing. Stress is really the biggest culprit for us as women as we're aging. And God, aren't we the most stressed? We take care of the family. You know, my mom is 92. I have to fly back and go take care of her all the time. Yeah, there's always something going on with the kids. There's a dog and the cat, they're barfing. You know, and then who's doing the meals? Who's doing the laundry? We have so much going on all the time, right? So of course our stress levels are high. Well, what I learned back in my 30s and 40s running that clinic, remember I said I had 80 hours of work weeks and got very, very sick and near a heart attack. I decided then, I said, okay, I need to learn to cut back, right? And it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And from that, what I learned is when I work with clients, I'm always telling them, I was like, okay, let's get you to have your 1 hour a day that is just yours. And they all like, oh my God, I don't know where I'm going to squeeze that. I get it. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you two things to understand. First off, if on that scale of the stress scale, 10 being high, 1 being low, if you're anything above a 5, then you're stressed. And it's beyond what your body could handle as a woman over 50. I know that's the bad news. Okay. But the good news is you could bring it down. Okay. So, first things first is if you could, this is the number one thing to do on the daily is if you can, and I know it's winter and I know some of you are in the snow and the cold, if you could get outside 30 minutes every day, fresh air, sunshine, just like our grandparents told us, works. It immediately takes the stress levels down, right? Okay, but that's not always practical. Let's do some practical stuff. So there's these breathing techniques that I learned from Dr. Bernard Jensen way back in the day, 30 years ago, where you breathe in on a count. Well, he had big numbers, and then I'll show you the simple ones. So write this down. The breathing technique is this. When you're feeling stressed, you know, your shoulders are tight, you're starting to get a headache, you're tired, you haven't slept well, right? And something happens where you just want to scream, right? That's when you do, well, hopefully a little bit before that, that's when you do the breathing technique. So you breathe, inhale on a count of 4, and then you exhale on a count of 4. Super simple, right? It's called a 4x4. And you're going to just breathe in 4, count. You could do this walking, you could do this in your car. You could do this when somebody's driving you crazy. You could do it anytime, right? But that's not what I learned 30 years ago. So the more advanced one, which I see more results with in bringing the stress levels down immediately, is the 20-10-20. I know it's a lot, but you breathe in slowly on a count of 20 and you hold it for 10 seconds and then you exhale on the count of 20. I know it's a lot, right? But guess what? It's not the inhale that actually gives your body most of the oxygen. It's being of your ability to exhale and get rid of the carbon dioxide on the exhale of a count of 20 actually works better. So I want you guys to try that and then email me and tell me what you guys think, how that works for you. There it is. You could be doing that, 5 times in the day, but it works. The breathing technique is one of the fastest, easiest way to do it. I can't meditate. I have friends, they're yoga, they're doing their meditation every morning. I'm like, listen, I'm not a meditator. Like, I need to go walk outside. I need to go, like, see the seagulls. Like, I need something. And then I'll do my breathing and then I feel better, right? So if you could meditate, go for it. If not, that's fine too. The other one is red light therapy. That is where you put the red light mask on, or there's these squares now with red light, you put those on. They also have ones for your chest, and then you lay down for 20 minutes. Listen, I think it's really just laying down and having like a little snooze. That's how why red light really works. Take your power nap, ladies, if you can. Okay, and that's going to help a lot. Now, what about we're going to get into a couple of things here, but I just wanted to, because it's in relation, but it's kind of like, so when you are trying to fall asleep and you can't fall asleep, that's a stress issue. Okay, that's a stress. Your stress issue is too high. So a tip for that is taking a hot Epsom salt bath, not super hot, but a bath where you put in 2 cups of Epsom salts. Why? Because the Epsom salt is actually magnesium. It's called magnesium sulfate. And then when you put the 2 cups in and soak 20 minutes to 30 minutes, an hour before bed, that helps your whole stress level just come down because the magnesium comes into your muscles and helps you relax. You could even add a few drops of lavender oil. Now, I travel a lot and I see that not all houses have baths. In fact, where I am now does not have a bathtub. So what do? You could get a tub or a big pot and fill it with hot water and put your feet in. It works the same, actually. You can put your feet in, you put a blanket on, and then you put your 1 cup of Epsom salts in, and that helps as well. Okay, so let's go on to number 4 because time is ticking. So the next one is movement. I was pretty turned off actually 2 years ago when I saw people like Dr. Gabrielle Lyons with her massive muscles. I was like, I don't want to look like that. But she's been harping on the muscle mass as we're aging, how we lose muscle mass, and nobody's talking about it. Now she's much more popular and she's all over the place. And she's able to really teach us why it is so much more important. And of course, Dr. Stacy Sims, many of the experts are saying that the muscles are such an important part as we age. Why? Not only because we're losing it, it's also because your mobility gets affected, right? So when you're walking and you trip and fall, if your muscles are strong, especially your core muscles, you catch yourself. And I trip all the time. Listen, I walk like 5 miles a day and I trip like, what is that, a piece of paper on the sidewalk that I just tripped up? What in the world was that? I don't even know, but it aggravates me. But because I'm toned or getting there, more toned, I catch myself and I don't fall. Right? I did fall 2 years ago, but that was a freak accident. My foot got caught in the tram and my knee went one way and my body went another way, and that was a mess. But that was a freak accident. I'm talking about, like, you're just walking every day and you're tripping and you catch yourself because your muscles are strong enough, right? Okay. So here's the thing. So many women will tell me, "Oh, I put in my 10,000 steps a day. I put in my 15,000 steps a day." Listen, ladies, understand this. I smelled BS when this company came out with it. the Fitbit. So the Fitbit came out by a Japanese company, and they said, oh, you could calculate your steps, and when you get in 10,000, you've done your deed for the day. And people would not go to sleep until they did their 10,000 steps. Like it was insane. I don't know if you guys remember that trend. And now you don't hear about it as much, but it's still around, of course. So here's the thing for women as we're aging. Walking is not enough. It is good for us. It helps, de-stress and be outside, and even being on the treadmill is lovely, yes, but it really is not enough. If you're going to reset yourself, you got to put yourself in a different category of, oh, wait a minute, I need to do stuff for me as I'm aging that's going to help me, not just kind of get me by, and then maybe I'll have problems later on. We don't want that. Okay, so Dr. Stacy Sims, Dr. Gabriel Lyons, Dr. Wright, all said to do strength training just a couple times a week. Listen, I'm going to be like right here telling you that I hate this part. I don't like lifting weights. I don't like going to the gym. I don't, but every country I go to or everywhere I go, I get my membership and I go in 3 times a week because I don't want to have issues with muscle loss and having falls and these kind of things. So when they said, oh, it's only start out with even once a week, I was like, oh, okay, I could do that. And I just, did very light things and, like 5 pound weights and, like barely nothing. And then slowly worked my way up. I'm maybe like at 7 pound weights. Yeah. And after a few months, it's still taking me time to get up there. It's not easy. But what they're saying is that you want the strength training to be where it's a little bit harder to lift. So in other words, don't just take a light 2 pound weight and just, go, go, go. That's just not going to be enough. You're going to really want to make sure that you push yourself to the point where you're getting more of the muscles building on itself, right? Now, the other one that I thought was so interesting, Dr. Rhonda Patrick brought this up, was about the Norwegian 4x4. So this is different than the breathing. This is 4x4 workout where you run in place for 4 minutes and then you rest for 4 minutes. Run in place for 4 minutes and rest for 4 minutes. And I'm not even there yet. I could do 2 minutes and I'm exhausted. It's really hard. Why do we need to do these things? So both strength training and this interval training, high intensity, what it does, it brings oxygen into our brain. And what the studies and the researchers are now showing for women is that it goes into our brain and helps get more oxygen in so that we could prevent and even not get dementia and Alzheimer's. So, so, so important to get that oxygen in there. So you could do the deep breathing, but you really need to understand that just the walking is not enough. And just having, once a week strength training is a good start. But the goal is to 3 times a week do something where you're pushing yourself a little bit. So you want to reset your system to realize, oh, I need to push a little bit if I don't want to have issues later on. Okay. All right. So the number 5 is the detox plan. I've been known as the detox queen. I did not give myself that name. I was given that name years ago at, I don't even know what conference I was at, and they pegged me as the detox queen because because I was in a docuseries, and yeah. So here's the thing. That's how I started 30 years ago as a naturopath to get rid of toxins and get myself better from all the illnesses that I was going through. Okay. So what we need to do is to reset, understand this, that your body has 5 elimination organs, or any medical doctor will tell you this. You have your kidneys, your colon, your skin, your lungs, your liver. Everything helps to get rid of toxins, right? But the challenge as we get older, because we're slathering on lotion and we use all this different makeup and dye our hair and spray ourselves with perfume, and yeah, we look great, but there's a price to pay for that. And that affects our hormones, it affects our toxicity level, and then can cause a lot of sluggishness as we get older, right? So here's just a super simple thing is to focus on sweating. If you're not a sweater, I get that because I never used to sweat in my 20s and 30s when I was the most active. But your skin is the largest detoxification organ. So if you could get the toxins coming out through your skin, then the next thing you know, you're getting rid of those excess toxins. If not, guess where it's stored? Stored in your fat. Toxins are stored in your fat because it's going to protect your organs first. So this is a lot of times when you have a big butt and your flappy arms and all the weight that's going on all these different areas, that fat is actually protecting you, but it's protecting you because there's too much toxins in your system. Yeah, I know that's the bad news. But sweat every day. And so dry skin brushing, and not using lotion and using coconut oil, olive oil is great. Okay, let's reset our social time. How many of you have watched a documentary? There's two, one in the United States and one in the UK, about the loneliness epidemic. So here's the challenge. The internet has ruined so many things for us. I mean, it used to be so much fun to just call a friend, say, hey, let's go for coffee, let's go shopping, let's go to a festival, let's go do something, right? And now it's like, you got to go on the internet to reach somebody through Facebook. And then instead, we usually stay home and just scroll on social media. It's just so, so, so detrimental. And they actually made the documentaries how serious it is. So as we're aging healthy, those of you who are like, hey, yeah, you know what, I need to have more social time. The challenge, of course, is, well, having friendships. And I know that this is super, super hard, especially because I travel, but there are meetup groups, there's travel groups, there's chats that you could join on, and where you get on Zoom and whatnot. But here's the thing. They have now shown, especially here in Europe, that documentary, the one in the UK, was really eye-opening, that when you have some social time on the weekly, that you are actually getting I hate to say like a dopamine hit, but it is kind of like a dopamine hit where your brain is like, oh, we're happy because we're connecting with another human being. And they studied it. Well, what about with pets? It's not the same because the pets don't talk back. They don't have conversation with you. It's the human interaction. Yeah. So I don't need a whole lot. I go to the gym and I chit chat with some people there. I might go to a coffee shop and chit chat with people there. That's it. It's not like you need a ton. You just need some until to the point where you're like, oh yeah, okay, now I feel good about myself. Okay, great. Okay, so out of all these, what is the most important after everything that we talked about? Number one is reduce stress. That is your number one focus that I would start with. And then number two is getting good quality sleep. And then number three is making sure that you're moving. Okay. All right. So here's the thing. We're going to talk when we're getting into the simple daily habits. Okay. So you only need to decide on two. You only need to decide on two simple habits that are going to get you on the right track. Number one is decide on your why. Why do you want to be a healthy ager? Why do you want to, have a life in this next season where you're feeling good about yourself, right? You have to write it down. You have to think about it. For me personally, what motivates me is I want to be able to walk and travel. And so I work out at the gym to make sure my muscles are strong. I could lift up my suitcase when I go in the plane or carry it or whatever, and I could do that. The other daily habit that is super important is to do the one that is the one that you're having the most challenge with. Like, so for me, it was strength training. I hated it, but I knew I had to get to the gym and do it on the regular. So choose the one and then say, okay, I know why I want to do it, right? So your mindset is, okay, I know I want to decide that I want to live a long, healthy life. I don't need to live till 100 or 150 like the guys, but I want to live a life that I'm feeling healthy and good about myself. And then you choose the one thing, you start that today. Okay, start that today and say, okay, this is the one I'm going to reset. I'm having trouble with the food, or I'm having trouble with understanding, what is the strength training, and I need to do a little figuring this out, what I need to do. And then work on it slow but sure. We're at the age, we don't have to go and be like crazy doing all of it all at the same time. But we do need to make sure that we're working on it on some level, a little bit every day, right? That's the whole thing. Okay, so if you guys are here watching and listening, we're going to get to the questions in a minute. Many of you want to feel better and want to go a little bit deeper. So the next thing I'm having, the next event I'm having next week, starting on Tuesday, is called the Reset Week, where we get together like this on Zoom for 15 minutes, and we choose one of these areas that we talk about, and we have one action step. So it's a little bit more progressive and it's a little bit more focused, right? And so every single day we do that. And then we also have a Q&A at the end of the week where, okay, what's going on? What else do we need to work on? And what's happening? Okay. So that I'm going to drop that link in here. And then as I'm dropping that in, let you guys know that for the week, so it's Tuesday, February 24th. It goes until the 28th on Saturday. Actually, we wrap it up. It's $67 for the whole week, and that's it. And you're good to go. And then if you have any more questions about that, then you could do that. So I'm dropping in the link for that. And when I put the replay on for you guys, I'll have the link there for you guys as well. Okay, so let me open it. Let me open the mic up. Oh, Yvonne's on here. Awesome. And if you have any questions, let me know. Any questions that you guys have. So I'm putting you, so Kate's on here, Yvonne's on here. I'm asking you guys to unmute. And then, or you could put your questions in the chat below, either way. And then I could answer any questions that you guys have. We covered a lot of things. Okay. Let me see here. You guys see that in the link? Can you guys see the chat in here? Yeah. So either you guys could text me a question via the chat, or you could unmute yourself. And you don't have to show your face if you're having a bad hair day. I get it. You don't have to. You could just go on your phone here and ask questions. If not, send me an email and we could go from there. Okay, so let's just make sure that you understand that when you're resetting, it's looking at the things that you are already doing and then choosing the one thing that you haven't been doing or you didn't quite understand how important it is, and then starting with that. Okay, that's the most important part. Okay. Oh, Yvonne is, hey, how are you? Hi, Yvonne.
¿Cómo está mi bella doctora?
How are you? Do you have any questions for me today?
No, I'm sorry I came a little bit late, but I'm very interested. I just see, how do you force yourself when you are a little bit down? What is
Yeah, that's a great
the
question.
thing
How
that
to
you try?
motivate yourself when you're down? Well, the biggest
Yes,
thing, yeah, the biggest thing is to, well, you have to have friends and family to talk to a little bit, right? Because there's a lot
yes,
going on. So making
yes,
sure that you're talking to other people, making sure that you're that you're connecting. Okay. I'm gonna
Yeah.
just put this on, I'm gonna stop the recording so that you and I could talk for a minute, and then anybody else who's on here, then they could ask their own